Namaste.
Hello and welcome to the Sikkim podcast brought to you by Summit Times. Today we have
Pema.
Uttam.
and Chiringiran here. Three of us will be discussing some news that has been doing the rounds and some that were reported last week. It's kind of like a roundup, not exactly, but kind of like a roundup. And to start with, we thought the latest news that came in today was of a cloud burst that is supposed to have happened in Chungthang, somewhere near Chungthang, but that's above Chungthang. But we are not really sure whether that is a cloud burst. What our north correspondent has informed us is that it could be a huge landslide
Just beyond Lachen.
beyond Lachen.
On the Lachen Shu River.
That has,
Yeah, I don't think it's a cloudburst either because I just happened to check. Someone forwarded the amount of rainfall they received, which was about 50 millimeters. That is not a cloudburst. And so, from what our North Sikkim correspondent Wangchup told us, is also that there was this huge landslide opposite Lachen into the Lachen Shu River, so which is throwing down a lot of debris and trees and logs and boulders, which is why Stage 3 has opened its gates, sluice gates, and Stage 5, and obviously up to Singtam, Tista is really swollen and big. So it's, of course, that doesn't mean that it's not a worrying situation. People need to be careful around the riverbanks. And it's tourist season, they're probably still having rafting.
I'm sure they've got some warning and they...
Yeah, I'm sure. I hope they did. And they're in a raft, so... No, but still, projectiles getting hit by logs will still be dangerous. But I'm sure I'm sure they've stopped it. Yeah. So, and videos are already circulating of Tista in Spate.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm digressing a bit. If you remember monsoons before the hydel projects, this would be how Tista would get in monsoons, even without dams, big and all that. But now that we are so used to this shriveled up Tista, when it kind of bloats up to its expected monsoon size, everybody's like, oh my god, what's happening?
So, anyway.
But there was no, what do you call that? Notice from any DC regarding this monsoon.
No, they have been getting, I think.
No, in the paper.
In the paper, no. Cloudburst, how will you predict?
No, what I mean to say that for the monsoon, like Tista, every year they used to issue a notice in the paper saying that regarding the people
on the river. Yeah, they used to.
Like water side, like.
But that's also sad, no? That you have to tell people who live along the river bank to be careful during monsoons. I mean, they've been living along the river bank for generations.
All the hidle is mandatory for them to do that.
So that was following a court case. That those sirens and all that before they release water. The adequate warning systems. This will be a nice time to check whether those warning systems are actually still functioning.
Check with
but till now, there's no I think Sneha, I think last time Wangchuk said release.
Yeah, but when they're doing this advanced thing, right? When they're cleaning up the reservoir, you know that you'll be cleaning up the reservoir, you'll be releasing the water. So that is, you can give an advertisement in the newspapers and notice an announcement. But when it's something like this, an act of nature, I think the warning systems and the administration kicking in and making sure that all the authorities along the rivers are adequately warning people, getting them off. Fishing bhi to kar rahe hote hain log.
Hopefully they have so many monsoon preparedness meetings. And
those are useless. But those are like just samosa chai khane ka opportunities. But no. But this time they are we've got feedback from the Singtam and Rampu where they've received these warnings. But how this is where those checklists come into play, right?
Yeah,
how effectively can you convey that warning to people?
I hope it is not just limited to Facebook messages warning people. I mean that I have seen, right? But I hope
it has to be on the boots on ground.
Also,
Got to have boots on ground because someone who's at the river at a quarry, for instance, collecting sand is not obviously checking his Facebook, right?
Yeah.
Or if you're fishing, you're not checking your.
All right,
I hope this will be a nice time for the administration to also see whether when they issue a warning, is that message conveyed effectively enough all the way down that? Because what is I'm digressing again. We're continuing on this too long. But what is also important about these warnings is to get people to be careful without spreading panic. But I think the moment you say cloudburst above Chungthang, and then
That's
predicting
like-
timelines at which the water will... Cloudburst is a
Big.
huge event, right? The water comes like a tsunami. It does not like...
And it happened
Before.
before.
It's happened before in Gangtok. It's happened across at the Lagyap River.
Yeah.
In North Sikkim, it has happened. So yeah.
People don't really understand these terms also, no? So they'll just use it like...
पानी बढ़ गया, ज़्यादा पानी बढ़ गया, must be a cloudburst.
Yeah, it's like, just say, now every sexual assault case is a POXO case.
Yeah.
They don't understand POXO is just for children and
Minors,
it's
yeah.
not for minors. It's not for... Every case is like POXO boys or POXO. Anyway, so we'll move on to the main topic, let's say, is about the CBI being allowed to investigate in Sikkim.
They have not been allowed yet.
No,
Okay.
they have not been allowed yet. But then the talk of now that the SKM government has come into power, and they had been talking about before coming to power also that they would want CBI to enter Sikkim and investigate basically Pawan Chamling, I guess, and his cabinet of ministers. So now there has been some more talk going on that this looks like it could happen.
Yes.
And what do you think?
About
That.
whether it could happen?
Whether it could happen?
Of course, if the
yeah.
government wants it, it can happen, because all that keeps the CBI out is for the state government to give permission for CBI to come in and investigate. So, given that SKM was on record of having said that we want CBI in, so I think it's just a matter of time before the doors are actually opened. Whether if it's of any use beyond causing embarrassment and keeping people occupied with raids and questioning, I don't know. I don't think much of the CBI as an organization. I think it's now been reduced to a political tool by the centre and interested state governments, as is the case happening here. So yes, of course it'll happen. I'm sure it'll happen.
You're sure it'll happen?
Of course, they're on record. It's one of their promises, isn't it? And they're on record of saying that. But I don't know why. For instance, I don't know why it's not already happened. Because all it takes is for the cabinet to sit down and say, yes, we open the doors. CBI, please come and investigate the case. Someone will file an FIR, and that's how it begins. But what do I think of CBI? I don't think much of the CBI.
I mean, why you need cabinet approval to get the CBI? I think won't it be for any, maybe a CM, maybe a chief secretary that's giving a green signal saying, and just a notification.
Because that is how the act is based. In fact, there's a Supreme Court case which is questioning the very existence of CBI. Because if you read these people who like to talk in legal terms, the Central Bureau of Investigation has been set up by something called the Delhi Police Act. Which doesn't make sense, right? It should be the India Police Act or something, right? Why should it be Delhi Police Act? So, anyway, so what is required is it's a Central Bureau of Investigation. Law and order is a state matter,
subject, yeah.
state subject. So, when you are allowing a central investigating agency to investigate something at the state level, you have to take the state's permission. That's how, and I think that's fine. I think as the rules stand today, right? Because law and order, corruption and all these issues come under a state matter, state subject, you need the state to open the doors for you.
But how many cases, if you look at CBI case, in different states, like for Jayalalitha, for Lalu, was it state giving...
in some cases, it was the Supreme Court. Sometimes the Supreme Court will feel that the state is not doing enough, so it will order the CBI to investigate, which is also fine.
Yeah, I mean, this case, if you see it, pre-election, SKM was so keen in saying, every time speech, they used to say, CBI emphasis, it strong. It was something like, I'm taking एउटा revenge जस्तो हुन्छ नि त
It is that.
No.
जस्तो हैन नि त्यही हो.
No, but the thing is यस्तो हो नि त, I mean, यो जुन चाहिँ CBI ल्याउँछु भनेपछि that means what, they don't have any trust in state police or state vigilance
Investigate, because the state also has a vigilance department, yes. Yeah, obviously, because I know it's like Xerox. It's like it's just a term that has caught the people's fans like imagination, right? That CBI is this big organization that is beyond the state's control. It's also about conveying the message that this is going to be investigated by an agency that the state government does not control. Because tomorrow the government might change, right? Even if the government changes, CBI will still continue with its investigation. That is one aspect of it.
Mhm.
The other is because of the image it has among the people, right? That this is an agency that is like really strong, and but Mamta has shown them how strong they are. So, anyways, so that's, I think it's more about creating it as a hawa, right? That CBI is this big thing. Otherwise, what is CBI? CBI is just made up of the same cops who make up your state police, right?
Yeah, I mean the
It's not a
conviction-
separate cadre.
Conviction like from the CBI and the state police is the same thing, right? I mean,
In Sikkim's case, state police has a better conviction record than CBI. Because CBI was brought in to investigate for a case against Mr. Bhandari, and he was acquitted in that case.
Yeah.
It was a vigilance case that eventually he got convicted in. So, no, because people have to understand this, that the Central Bureau of Investigation is not a specialized force. It is made up of
The same
state police and IPS officers who are on deputation from the states or wherever they
But I
are,
guess like
who are staying there.
better infrastructure, and I mean like the CBI.
What infrastructure? They've got a bigger building.
No, what I mean to say is like we've let this what do you call
Oh, like picture की तरह नहीं होता है
Right,
यार. It's not like in the movies.
No, yeah, a lot of
Yeah,
Huh?
it's not like in the movies. Like I like, for instance, half the latest technology that you might have for criminal investigation is not even admissible in courts. So, but this is a good time to actually think of what America has by way of the FBI, right? The moment a crime or an investigation becomes interstate, right, involving two states or more states, it should go to CBI straight away. Right? Make it an organization like that. Then it makes sense, right? Then even corruption cases can automatically go to CBI because obviously corruption is not isolated to a state, right? There'll be someone from outside who's bribing you, or someone from outside who's taking the bribes. Then all this jhamela will not take place. And have a specialized force. Our country does not even have a specialized criminal investigation force. The same cop who's on traffic duty today, the government changed, he'll get a plum posting in like wherever. So there is no specialization, which is why I think our conviction rates are so poor in our country.
So then, say, what do you feel is like CBI is no big deal?
No, it is a big deal. By if your idea is to embarrass people, if your idea is to keep them occupied with 8-hour-long interrogations and raids and things like that, which your state police can also do.
Yeah.
But here it is slightly more so because it's a central. Otherwise, imagine CBI is investigating corruption, big corruption cases like the 2G, 4G, whatever, right? It is investigating terrorist activities. It is investigating crime. It is investigating like bank ghotalas. Like, kuch bhi. Like any case you want, like kind of wash your hands off it, give it to CBI. So yeah, but that, as I think it'll come. But what people don't understand is that once CBI has an office in Sikkim, and once you've opened the door, then it's open for everyone, right? It does not piecemeal.
It was that CBI thing only, no? The director, what do you call it? The controversy that had happened some months ago.
Oh yes, of course, yeah. The chief and his deputy were fighting, and that is just goes to show how politically colored the organization has become, right? And that's how Delhi uses it. That's how state governments also use it.
And what if like, I mean like political party like say SKM, they're saying CBI. What if like people looking at like BJP, I mean Modi ko 5 years back record using as a political tool, and people might say no, mat lo, yeah, don't. I mean, what I mean to say is like,
No.
I mean, yeah, forget something, right? For the XYZ, everyone, I mean, the BJP, को त ट्युनिङमा हुन्छ हातमा हुन्छ हैन सबै कुरो चाहिँ बन्द like what happened to Mukul Roy, what happened to Hemant Biswa.
So it can be used against
anyone.
Yes,
can be used against,
yes, and BJP we know has plans for Sikkim.
Yeah.
Ambitions in the region, let's say, not
Yeah.
Sikkim maybe, but Darjeeling and
Yeah.
these areas. Of course they'll use it like that. Of course use it
I mean,
use it like that. You are saying that what if people realize this?
That's what I mean to say is like, I mean, person, अहिले गभर्मेन्ट फर्म भयो अब तातमा छ सिबिआई बट द थिङ दे डोन्ट अन्डरस्ट्यान्ड कि बिजेपीको पोलिटिकल इफ यु लुक एट द पोलिटिकल स्ट्राटेजी इज टु slowly get
Long-term
it.
strategy.
So either way,
every weapon in their arsenal
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
use
against anyone you don't like or
Yeah.
wherever you have. But yeah, of course they'll do. It's only a matter of time. But it's interesting. People will not have problems with it because you must have spoken to a lot of SKM like supporters.
Yeah.
They are all waiting for the CBI to come.
yeah.
They think that if CBI comes, somehow corruption will,
Yeah.
like I don't know what they're thinking CBI will be able to achieve, right? But I think they're all of them because there was so much what is it? Not angst, but there was so much dislike for the other camp this time
Yeah.
between SKM and SDF. I think it's more out of that. That let's go after these guys. Let's use the CBI to go after these guys. I think the people who should be really worried about CBI coming, right? Because for instance, the moment the government changed, I'm sure Mr. Chamling knew that CBI will come and he's prepared for that eventuality, right? The people who should be really worried about CBI arriving, which might be a good thing, which might be a bad thing, whatever, would be the government servants, bureaucrats and engineers, right? Because the door has opened for them as well. All it'll take is an FIR, and the moment CBI puts in a request to investigate an officer, if the present government, which opened the doors for CBI, does not give that permission, it will be egg on their face, right? So every application that CBI puts in that I want to investigate this officer, because they have to take permission, right? The government will have to give that permission, right? If it has to continue standing by that. Why did you allow CBI in otherwise?
Yeah.
So if anywhere pressure is going to come on the government to not really allow CBI in yet, it will be from, I think, from the bureaucrats and technocrats of the state.
All right.
Moving on.
Moving on and continuing the corruption theme. We will discuss. We'll talk about the Wire story that came out this week, last week.
It's been 2 weeks,
or
maybe
more than that. Yeah.
2 weeks.
Which was on how PS Tamang could remain the Chief Minister of Sikkim despite the Supreme Court ruling that said that convicted persons cannot
people convicted under Prevention of Corruption Act,
cannot even stand for elections
for 6 years.
So the story said that this amendment that was made in the Representation of People's Act, which was the amendment?
No, it's like this. So the original rule was that if you got convicted in a corruption case of and was served more than 2 years prison term, then you would get disqualified. For prison terms of less than 2 years, you would not. You could contest elections the moment you came out, right? The 6-year ban on you contesting any elections was earlier. You had to serve time for 2 years or more. That was amended, and any conviction under Prevention of Corruption Act would automatically attract disqualification and continuing disqualification for another 6 years. So according to the Wire story, they kind of had this argument that this amendment, in which all convictions under Prevention of Corruption Act will now be disqualified for 6 years, that amendment has been repealed. Hence, but that repeal means cancel, band wo uda diya, wo amendment.
Removed.
That amendment has been removed. Remember, SKM had also used that argument before the elections. So, and which is why I don't know, I'm not so convinced about the Wire story, because it does not come up with saying, so what does that mean? Does that mean that Mr. Tamang can contest the elections within the 6 months? It doesn't say that. Does it say that Mr. Tamang is no longer disqualified from contesting elections? It does not say that. Hai na? It doesn't say that.
I think it mentions that he could have stood for elections or something like that.
No, it doesn't say that in as many words. What it says is that the Supreme Court order on Jayalalitha, which disqualified Jayalalitha from continuing to be the Chief Minister even for 6 months, just because she was disqualified from contesting elections, that cannot be applied to Mr. Tamang, is what it said. It doesn't, which, if their reading of this repealing is that that repeal is completely done away with, then Mr. Tamang can contest elections right now. They can call by elections.
But did they mention any case regarding
No,
this?
this is the first since Jayalalitha that it's happening in our country, that a person disqualified from even contesting has been made the Chief Minister. That does not normally happen. So I found that Wire story not completely convincing. And I remember when SKM had used the same argument, at that time Mr. K.T. Gelson, who's himself a lawyer, had said that their reading of the repeal is wrong. The repeal was because that amendment was repealed because it had become redundant, in the sense that this disqualification clause has been included in the Parent Act. So you don't need a separate amendment anymore, so it has been done away with. The law, the rules still remain the same, that anyone convicted under a Prevention of Corruption Act case cannot contest elections for 6 years, was his argument. Now it remains to be seen how, because this has never been tested, right? It has not been tested so far.
Basically, it's like, say, for SDF, it's like 6 months. I mean, for SCAM, they have the 6 month window period of like deciding whether Gole would like move on with CM or contest, or it might be for SDF to like file a case against his,
SDF or any private citizen, anyone can file a PIL questioning this. And I think they should, at least it'll be clear about where the law stands on this.
Because I mean, people are also confused.
Yeah. I don't think people are confused. People think the governor is the final authority. Since he has sworn in Gole, he's qualified.
No, that's
to
for
be the
only
CM.
6 months. Yeah, I mean, that's only, the window is only for the 6 months.
Yeah.
After 6 months, it like.
Yeah, but within 6 months, we'll know. I guess we'll also know the.
I mean, no political party to care. I mean, both the party. I mean, SKM to won't be saying, but SDFC भी तो कुछ नहीं आ रहा.
No, because if I remember correctly, there was an RTI filed at the Election Commission, and isn't it? An Election Commission said that yes, Mr. Tamang cannot contest elections.
Because I remember कि जब वो माथि assembly में हंगामा भयो नि अस्ति regarding that चोर and all that. एक इन्टरभ्यू गोलेको गरेको थियो नि त हामीको voice of someone did के अन्त उसले भन्दै नि त I'll be like 6 month बादमा जब हुन्छ step down गर्छु भनेर चाहिँ he himself उसको.
Yeah. No, but so wait, what you're saying is correct. I don't understand. According to this article also, they're saying the same thing, right? That the act was amended and amended. The amendment was repealed.
Yeah.
So, if it had not been repealed, Tamang too would have suffered disqualification, and the rigors of the Supreme Court judgment in the B.R. Kapoor case would have applied to him.
Yeah, I think that still applies. Because if Mr.
The
logic still applies.
So what I'm saying is the Wire article I was quoting is also saying कि he kind of saying that PS Tamang
he can
contest.
Does it?
He can contest. Indirectly भी नहीं पता नहीं कैसे लिखा हुआ.
No.
Had the 2003 amendment of the RPA, that is the Representation of People's Act, not been repealed by the Modi government in 2015, Tamang too would have suffered disqualification, and the rigors of the Supreme Court judgment would have applied to him. So they're saying he can. If that
repeal means that clause has been scrapped, of course he can.
Yeah.
Of course he can.
So what I'm saying is, but at the same time, I'm saying, if it was the case, which the SKM camp did bring up before the elections also, why couldn't they pursue it and get him to contest elections in?
Yes. Because at that time they also explained it to saying they didn't trust the returning officers, which could be challenged and everything else. Yeah. I know, because I think they also know that he cannot contest. What this Wire story says, the Supreme Court, right? The Supreme Court case that you're mentioning here, Jayalalitha case, was not whether Jayalalitha can contest elections or not. It was whether Jayalalitha can continue to remain CM even for 6 months. Because the rule says that a non-MLA, a person who's not an MLA, can be made a CM provided he or she contests and wins elections within that period, right? The Supreme Court case was that this person had said she cannot continue as CM even for 1 day because she cannot even contest these elections So you cannot tell me that you wait for 6 months to see whether she can contest or not. Allow her to be the CM for 6 months, because she'll never be able to in this 6 months. So that was the case. It was not whether she should be disqualified. She was already disqualified. The Supreme Court case was whether she can be allowed to remain CM even for 6 months, which is what SDF is arguing right now. That since Mr. Tamang is disqualified from contesting elections, he cannot remain a CM even for 6 months, is what they're saying. So that is probably what they are trying to say does not apply to Mr. I don't know. This is a very, for such a serious issue, it's a very casual piece.
आपका जो statement,
Yeah.
so when governor उसको like nominate करे नि त, so what made governor to like not go through the जयललिता का जो कि once convicted election ही उठना सकता है, तो 6 month का वो बात ही नहीं होता था उस टाइम में. What made governor to decide?
No, it's not the governor. We discussed that earlier as well. That it's not for the governor to decide whether someone qualifies to be an MLA or not. Right? That's not the governor's jurisdiction.
Yeah.
That's the ECI and the Supreme Court.
No one to.
So the governor
challenge this, I know.
No, but governor is within his powers.
No, governor, whatever.
Swear
But no one from the opposition camp.
They did
to court and challenge the Jalil when he was like totally like.
हाँ वो तो कर रहा है, SDF तो कर रहा है ना. SDF has a problem communicating still, so I guess
6 महीने तो वैसे हो ही जाएगा ना बस.
Yeah. It will set a precedence. That's the whole thing. And if it's not challenged and clarified, then it sets a precedence. And I don't think any other state is going to risk something like this.
Okay.
All right, then we'll close today's discussion. We have a lot more a lot of topics to discuss, but I think it'll be too long.
Oh.
We'll come out in another episode with the other more light-hearted topics, I think. So, see you in the next episode. This is Chiring Eden signing off.
Bye.
Bye.